Dust spun in frantic little spirals across Ashwater Ridge as the first set of hooves cracked the silence like a whip. Wooden shutters shuddered. A dog whimpered beneath a porch. Folks along Main Street froze where they stood, eyes drawn toward the incoming silhouettes. 4 riders, shoulders broad, coats flapping like torn shadows against the rising heat. The Calder boys. Their leader, Macklin Calder, rode ahead, tall in the saddle, one hand loose on the reins, the other resting on the butt of a gun he didn't bother to hide. His grin cut through the dust like a knife. Behind him, his men fanned out, their horses restless, snorting hot steam into the morning air. A child dropped a bucket. The clang tore through the tension. Nobody bent to pick it up. Macklin's horse halted dead center in the road. The leather creaked under him as he leaned forward and spat. "Where's the woman?" Eyes darted, but no one answered. A gust of desert wind rolled through, pushing dry tumbleweed along the street. The sheriff stood on the porch of his office, hat low, hand near his holster, but not close enough to matter. "I asked a simple question," Macklin said, tone smooth but edged with something sharp. "June Avery, the widow. Bring her out." From inside the general store, a faint shape appeared. June stepped out slowly, hands trembling around the folds of her dress. The dust clung to her skirt, her boots sinking a little into the soft earth. She didn't speak, just shook her head, eyes wide and wet. Fear made her breath quick, uneven. Macklin's grin widened. "There you are." The sheriff moved first, stepping off the porch. "She ain't yours to take," he said, voice steady but thin. "Whatever business you think you got." "Think?" Macklin laughed, cutting him off. "I know I got business. Her husband owed us. He died before paying, but debts don't die with a man." His rider shifted, hands drifting toward weapons. The townsfolk held their breath, shoulders tight, waiting for the first shot to tear the air open. That's when the people near the crossroads turned their heads. A single figure stood there, still as a fence post, dust coating the heavy coat on his broad frame. Rancher Elias Crow. He didn't move, didn't speak, just watched. June followed the direction of the town's gaze. Her lips parted just a little, breath hitching. The wind tugged at a strand of hair across her cheek. She whispered something under her breath, too soft for anyone but herself. "Please don't." Macklin didn't notice her whisper. His focus stayed on the sheriff, then shifted to Elias. "Oh, look," he said. "The ghost on the ridge." Elias's jaw tightened, a small twitch beneath the stubble. The only sign he'd heard the insult. Macklin smirked. "You keep staring at me like that, old man, and I'll knock those eyes clean out." No one breathed. Elias didn't flinch. The wind hissed along the road, pushing grit between boots, brushing against the heavy quiet. And with the sun rising red above the canyon edge, the whole town felt it. Trouble had come, and it wasn't leaving quiet. June's fist hit Elias Crow's door with a sharp, uneven rhythm. 3 knocks, a pause, then 2 more, quicker, desperate. The hinges groaned when he opened it. She slipped inside without waiting for permission, back pressed to the wooden wall, breath shaking like something chased her up the ridge. "You shouldn't be here," Elias said quietly. "I know," she whispered, eyes darting toward the window as if the Calder boys might rise out of the dusk itself. "But I can't stay in town. They're coming back." Her hands trembled as she held them tight against her chest. The kerosene lamp on Elias's table flickered, shadows shivering across her face. "Sit," Elias said. "I can't sit." She stepped toward him, voice cracking. "You need to understand something. Please, please don't do that." Her words tangled with fear. "Don't stand up to them. Don't get in their way. They'll kill you." A long, low creak rolled through the cabin as wind pushed against the walls. Elias didn't move. Only his eyes shifted toward her, steady, unreadable. "They killed my husband," she said, the words breaking loose all at once. "Not for debt, for information." Elias's brow lifted a fraction. June's fingers curled into fists. He found something, a route through Devil's Spine, a way to sneak wagons through without lawmen seeing. He wasn't supposed to know. They killed him for it. Her voice dipped lower, trembling. "And they think I know it too." Silence pressed between them. Heavy, close, unblinking. Elias's gaze drifted to the far corner of the cabin. An old revolver lay there, untouched for months, dust gathering around the holster. Beside it, a faded map curled at its edges, inked trails and canyon marks drawn long before June arrived. The wind picked up, rattling the single window. June flinched. "The sheriff can't protect me," she said. "No one can. So please don't make this worse. If you confront them, they'll burn the town down to prove a point." She swallowed hard, voice thinning. "You've survived this long by staying quiet. Stay quiet now." Elias moved to the table, fingers brushing over the rough wooden surface. Not fast, not slow, just deliberate. He reached for his gloves, pulling them on one finger at a time. The leather snapped softly into place. June's breath caught. "Elias, no." He didn't answer. Instead, he walked past her toward the small chest at the foot of his bed. The latch clicked open. Inside lay a single medal, dulled by time, its ribbon frayed. He stared at it for a moment, long enough for June to notice the way his jaw tightened. "You can't fight them," she said, voice breaking. "You can't." Elias closed the chest. Then, for the first time since she entered, he looked directly at her. His voice was quiet. "Steady. You're right," he said. "I shouldn't." His hand reached for the revolver. "But I will." Hoofbeats hammered the canyon floor in frantic bursts. Elias's horse lunging forward, June clinging to his waist as the narrow trail twisted beneath them. Loose stones skittered off the edge, dropping into the depths below. The canyon walls rose sharp and jagged on both sides, squeezing the light into thin slashes across the trail. Behind them, the Calder boys' shouts echoed, warped by the cliffs, multiplying into ghostly taunts. "They're gaining!" June cried, her voice snatching against the wind. Elias didn't answer. His shoulders stayed tight, every muscle locked into the motion of guiding the horse through Devil Spine like a man who'd ridden it 100 times blindfolded. The reins snapped and flicked. The horse leaned left, then right, dodging outcroppings at the last possible heartbeat. Gunfire cracked. A bullet sparked off the canyon wall, showering them with grit. June ducked. "They'll hit us." Elias pulled the horse sharply toward a shadowed cut in the stone. They skimmed through it, inches from scraping their legs raw. Another turn, too narrow, too steep, yet he took it without hesitation. The horse responded like it understood him better than words. "Elias, how are you doing this?" June's voice shook. A breath. A low exhale. The closest thing she'd heard to an answer. "I've been here before." The path dipped suddenly. Their horse slid, hooves skidding across gravel. Elias braced, leaning back, gripping June's arm to steady her as they plunged down the slope. Dust exploded around them. At the bottom, he jerked the reins and veered left, straight into a tight channel of rock barely wide enough for them to pass. One of the Calder riders attempted the same. His horse clipped the wall and screamed, sending both beast and man tumbling into the canyon's belly. The echo of the fall stretched long and bitter. June slapped a hand over her mouth, eyes wide. Elias didn't look back. The canyon opened briefly, revealing a ledge overlooking the wild maze of Devil's Spine. Wind lashed their faces. The sun glinted off something metal tucked beneath Elias's coat, a hint of the life he'd buried long before June ever knocked on his door. "They won't stop," June said, breath thin. "Not until they kill me. Or you." Elias urged the horse onward. "I know." Another volley of shots rang out. A bullet grazed a rock near Elias's knee, sending sharp fragments stinging across his boot. He pressed forward, weaving between boulders like he'd memorized their positions years ago. June gripped him tighter. "My husband, he didn't know them anything. He only found their hiding place. Their gold." Elias's grip on the reins hardened. The trail split ahead, one path winding toward safety, the other curling back toward Ashwater Ridge. June felt the horse begin to slow. "Elias." He stared toward the distant rise where the town lay. Smoke drifted faintly, Calder's threat already unfolding. June shook her head, voice cracking. "Please don't do that." Elias turned the horse. Back toward the danger. Back toward the town. Back toward the fight he'd sworn never to face again. The sun was barely over the ridge when Elias Crow stepped into the middle of Ashwater's dusty main road. No announcement, no warning, just the slow, deliberate sound of his boots pressing into the dirt. One step, then another, until every eye in town locked on him. Macklin Calder reined his horse around, smirking when he saw the lone figure. Well now, he drawled, the ghost came home. His men snickered, their rifles resting easy in their hands. The sheriff stood helpless near the porch, sweat beading down the side of his face. Elias didn't speak, didn't blink. His coat shifted in the early light, revealing the worn grip of the revolver holstered at his side. Old, but not forgotten. A gust of canyon wind curled down the street. Dust swirled between the men like a warning no one heeded. Macklin nudged his horse forward. You mean to die in front of everyone? Or you think a single gun'll save you from 10 rifles? Still, Elias said nothing. From somewhere near the edge of town, a faint figure appeared on the ridge. June, breathless from her desperate run, eyes wide as she spotted him, standing alone. Her whisper carried on the wind, thin and breaking. Please don't do that. Elias rested a thumb against the revolver's hammer. Macklin's smirk twitched. Boys, he said, teach him how a ghost gets buried. Rifles rose. Elias moved. Not fast, right? With precision that belonged to a man who'd fought battles far uglier than anything Ashwater could imagine. He stepped sideways as the first volley fired, letting bullets slice air where he'd just stood. Dirt burst upward in sharp spits. Horses reared. Shouts cracked across the street. Elias's hand swept down, drawing his revolver in a single clean motion. But he didn't aim at them. He aimed upward. One shot. Sharp. Perfect. The bullet slammed into the bronze bell of the old church, striking it dead center. The clang thundered across the town, so loud it rattled windows, shook shutters off hinges, and sent every horse on the street screaming in panic. Calder's men lost control, animals bucking and twisting beneath them. Rifles flew from hands. Riders toppled in chaotic heaps. Macklin fought for balance, twisting in the saddle, eyes wide with disbelief. Elias walked toward him through the dust storm of hooves and shouts. His revolver lowered, his steps calm. Macklin's horse bolted. He fell hard, landing on his back, gasping. Before he could reach for his gun, Elias pinned it beneath his boot. The sheriff rushed forward, slapping irons onto the stun gang leader. Townsfolk spilled into the street, voices rising with something that hadn't existed here for years, hope. June reached Elias, tears trembling in her eyes. She touched his arm, gentle, shaken. You didn't kill them. They didn't need killing, he said quietly. She looked at him as if seeing someone entirely different than the quiet rancher she once knew. Behind them, the church bell swayed in the breeze, still humming with the echo of that single shot. And Ashwater Ridge would tell the story for generations. How the rancher did what no one expected. How he saved them all.